Well, welcome back to Crossroads. We're on location at the Quilters Hall of Fame in Marion. It's one of our favorite places in town, and Sue Munn is here, a member of the board, to tell us about the opening for this season, and we wanted to show you some of the work of Linda Koeing. Now tell us who Linda Koeing is, because we're going to have her work on exhibit for a number of months.
Through July.
How did the board, or how did you all working together decide to honor her?
Well, we have a committee that sets up exhibits, and the head of our exhibits committee knew Linda. She took classes from her. Linda was a quilt shop owner in Indianapolis for several years, and she offered classes. And they were going to honor her because she had had 2 books published by a French firm, and they invited her to France about this time last year to exhibit her quilts and for the unveiling of her most recent book. And unfortunately, Linda had been diagnosed with cancer, and she passed away last fall before this exhibit opened, so it is now a memorial exhibit.
When people come, if they're interested in the art of quilting, what are they going to see in Linda's work that makes it so special?
Linda's favorite thing was to reproduce antique quilt blocks. And if you look at her work, most of her quilts are either patterned after an antique quilt, or she's taken an antique block and done something creative with it. This quilt, for instance, she belonged to a quilt group. They would do challenges with each other. They saw a little miniaturized basket block, and they decided to do a challenge within their group, and they all had to pick a color, and she picked what this pink is called bubblegum pink. That was her color. And she, in the museum, you'll see a lot of her quilts involve miniaturized blocks, which I really love miniature quilts, and I've made a few, but it's pretty exacting, and she was an expert.
Well, any kind of art, I'm just looking at this, any kind of art to the uninformed. So we say, you look at it and you just say, oh, I just see the same thing, but then you begin to look at it and you see the intricacy. Each of these patterns are different.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's something she's replicated in many of her works.
Oh, absolutely. There is a quilt upstairs. It's a double 4-patch, and a 4-patch is just 4 little squares that make up a patch. Usually you'll see maybe 2-inch squares. Hers finished at a 1/2 inch. And it's truly amazing to stand and look at that quilt and realize how exacting that work was.
So when you look at Linda Koenig's work, I imagine you're seeing some Hoosier pride come through, but also
absolutely.
a great kind of affection for the work of the past.
Absolutely. And she actually started out as a quilt collector, and she ended up learning how to make quilts, and then she purchased a shop that's still in Indianapolis called Quilts Plus. It's on 86th Street. And she was the owner for approximately 8 to 10 years, I believe. And she offered classes, and several of her quilts were offered as patterns or classes at the quilt shop or blocks of the month. And she had a big following.
That's great. It's a great way to see the Quilters Hall of Fame. And I would imagine there are a number of us who know this is here, or we hear about it and we don't check it out. Maybe we need to do as I did and bring my mom here a year here after living here 11 years.
Absolutely.
But I know you're expanding. You're looking at work on the old train depot. What do you want to tell people who are local, who maybe have been, but they haven't been in a while, or someone that's maybe saying, I mean to check that out?
Well, you need to come down because our exhibits change every 3 months. We are closed during the winter, but we open at the beginning of April, and we have one exhibit that runs through July, and then we change through the fall, and then we have another one from fall through, we're open through the beginning of December. So every time you come down, it's not always the same static exhibit. We change frequently.
Yeah, there are some standing exhibits because they're perennials. There's tributes to Marie Webster, who's here next to you. But a lot of it does change frequently, and that's worth checking out.
Absolutely.
Sue Munn, member of the board of the National Quilters Hall of Fame, and it's right here in Marion. You should check it out and see the work of Hoosier Linda Koeing. Thanks so much, Sue.
You're welcome.